good. We're live. We're rolling. What's going on, YouTube? How you guys doing? Also, big hello to those of you listening on Spotify right now. We're here back again, episode 57 now of the Detox Podcast. And before I let you guys know who my guest is tonight, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about car insurance. Nowadays, it seems like more than ever before, we can do so much more from home. So while you're at home, why aren't you saving money on your car insurance? Your hometown agency, Kenosha Auto Insurance, has specialized for years in simple, hassle-free insurance using the latest in touch-free technology to help you get the best rates for you and your family. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call today at 262-448-4141. That's 448-4141. And the website is kenoshains.com. One more time, that's 262-448-4141, or it's what's been on the screen right now. Other than that, I also want to, encourage you guys that if you're new here to please subscribe. We post new podcasts every Monday, along with a couple of highlights a couple times a week. Plus, we've got some new videos and skits and stuff coming out. Getting back to the old ways, post-COVID and everything. Sadly, COVID is still very present. But I also want to say thank you to our patrons. I know I have been teasing that we're putting some new stuff on there, and trust me, we are going to be just loading it up content-wise over on Patreon by the end of this month. So I just want to say thank you to those people. You really help us out, really help support the channel, and we have not forgotten about you. We are going to be doing a lot of fun stuff over there. Other than that, I've got a really, really interesting guest here with me today. He's actually not here yet. He's running a couple minutes late. You're a star, Dad. What's going on, Pat? Kevin Klitzka says, hey, is Kevin going to stick around, or is he going to troll me where he says something at the beginning and then I know he's not watching because then he is gone and doesn't respond to me when I talk to him later? But what's going on, guys? My man, Raymond K. Roberts, who I will probably give another introduction to before. If you don't remember, we had a talk I think he was the episode just after it was just after the George Floyd protest, right? And I had him on because I felt like he was somebody that was knowledgeable about the things that were going on. And man, I bit off a little bit more than I could chew. He was far more intelligent than I could have imagined, and very entertaining guest to have on. One of the best guests we had. He was nominated for a couple of our awards at our 1 year. So he's arriving here in a minute, it sounds like, and we'll get him all mic'd up and whatnot. But other than that, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what's going on with you. I support the fro. Oh, what's going on? What's up, Detox? We've got a Dan Trutchell in the comments. How are you doing, Dan? Taya LMAO. Oh my God, we've got all of our chatty award winners. I've got one that's going to be on, and I've got all the rest watching today live. That's awesome. I'm with Tim, supporting the fro. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to cut it. I don't know. Let me know if anybody else hasn't cut their hair since COVID broke out, because it's been a stretch. It's been rough. I was going to do it, like, originally. I think it was like a month in, because I thought, haircut places were still going to be open. And then that didn't fan out. So now here I am, and I kind of just don't want to cut it. I'm just going to let it go. So I'm probably going to be looking bummier and bummier as the show progresses. It's actually really funny if you go back and see the thumbnails from the beginning episodes, how bad it looks. Coach E wouldn't approve of the fro. No, he wouldn't approve of the beard either. I think we had to be clean shaven back in high school. There was some weird facial hair rule because Troy Hickey had a really nice beard and they made him shave it. And I was really sad for him. But yeah, so Raymond and I, we're going to be talking about a couple of different things here tonight. I know he's very passionate about the BLM movement and things like that, as I feel most people should be. And if they aren't, then I get that there's a little bit of misconceptions on what it means and what's going on. And there are people posing as being a part of it, doing, heinous things. And I think that's true on both sides of the aisle. So he's going to set some of that stuff straight. We're also going to be talking a little bit about men's mental health issues, awarenesses, therapy, things like that. And also, I want to know, you guys, are you guys digging sports right now that they're coming back? I saw there was something with the Brewers where they had some players already get it, and I think the Packers had several players already test positive. But I know the NBA is doing the bubble and everything like that, and they seem to be just trotting right along, and I think people are enjoying that. We will also be getting into, it looks like the Ellen investigation, which seems very interesting because I don't know about you guys, but I love Ellen. I've always really enjoyed Ellen, and I used to joke that I thought it would be that like to have the nicest people in the planet be the president of the United States. It would be sick if like Oprah was the president and Ellen was like the first lady or vice president type deal. I thought that would just be sick. Wow, I just read all about her today. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. Like she wouldn't let people look at her like directly in the eyes if you were like just working on set. I think there was something about like it had to be a certain temperature in the room, and she was just very toxic to interns and things like that. But I don't know. Then the producer came out and said that wasn't true, which of course he would say that. Weird timing, Darren. How we always on that page? Yeah, that's how it works. We're always on the same page. We gotta get Taya back on the show. I still gotta give her award. But I want to get into, again, I'm kind of just trying to kill some time right now while we're waiting for Raymond. I thought he was pulling up here a second ago. But what's going on with your guys' COVID personal relationships and stuff like that? I know a lot of people are getting back out, going to the bars, and seeing friends and family. And I know a lot of people are getting a lot more lax, or at least they were here in here in Wisconsin, in my home state. But now that the mandatory mask ordinance just went into place, I want to know what you guys think about everything. Like, where do you stand on the virus? Are you someone who thinks that we should be getting on with life, or do you trust the scientific experts and whatnot? So I would love to know, and you know, feel free, as backhanded as that sounded, if you are on the opposite side of that, I would love to know why. I think it's very interesting that I see this all the time where people are posting and talking about how they think it's ridiculous or really stupid that you have to wear a mask into a restaurant or a bar to then just take off and eat or drink, right? And I totally agree with that, and that is ridiculous. But where I think I disagree is I don't think that bar or restaurant needs to be open right now. And I know some people are gonna definitely be like, bro, are you still on? Like, you're scared of the virus? Are you still on that? And I think it's a really lame way to try and discredit people that are just trying to be cautious, because I'm not scared of the virus, but I just, don't want to hurt other people that don't deserve it, or pass this along and keep this going. I'd like to get back to normal. I don't know if you guys know this, but I make music, and you don't make a lot of money from streaming anymore. It used to be back when you sold albums, you made a lot more money. And back then, when it was even a little bit sooner, when it was iTunes, you made a lot more money on music. You don't make a lot of money on just pure streaming music-wise. All the money you make is live shows. And we actually had a lot of live shows booked for this summer. So I'm not someone who doesn't want COVID to ever end. I know that that's a lot of people. That I know some people think that that's like a common thing, that people on like the left all just want COVID to last forever. It's like, no, dude, I'm not. I would love to get back out there, be working on my craft, and providing entertainment for people and making a little bit of money at the same time would be really nice. But that's just not the reality of what's going on right now. And I think like places like bars and restaurants that are kind of just like petri dishes for people to just sit and breathe all over each other is a little just unnecessary right now. I don't know. That's my thoughts. I would love to hear your guys's. So what else were we getting at? Oh yeah. So Raymond here, he's going to be coming up. We're going to be talking mental health, especially men's mental health, and realizing our own issues and whatnot. I think that that's something that I personally have been trying to become more in tune with, is like my mental health. And I think, COVID definitely played a part in it feeling like my mental health was in shambles, as I'm sure it did to many other people when quarantine and stuff started. But as I've been trying to self-diagnose, self-help, I've realized that a lot of the issues that I was having have been from before those things, before COVID was even, in the picture and whatnot. It was a lot of lingering issues, relationships and and just like the way I was handling things. And so I've been looking at myself a lot more and trying to realize these things. And I think it's hard for men, and I think that's probably what Raymond wants to get into. It's hard for us as guys to really get into stuff like that and be vulnerable in a position. And I don't know why it is. It's really toxic. Like, I'm not going to say that I was someone like that. I've been called a pretty emotional person before I've lost some friends over being too emotional. So I'm not going to say that I'm one of those people that won't talk about it, but there is a weird stigma with it. And I think that's probably what he wants to get into. Taya Gaines says, I recently had an experience where I tested positive and was asymptomatic. And the people I could have infected, my boyfriend, my sisters, and mom, all came back negative, and it didn't make any sense. The nurse told me that I shouldn't get tested again after quarantine because the test can come back positive up to a month or more after coming back positive once. That is interesting. That's kind of weird that it can come back positive so many times, even being so far in advance. But yeah, I mean, we had a family member test positive as well a long time ago, and no one got it. So that is really interesting. The man is here. What's going on?
Howdy.
What's happening? You made it. Sorry, we're live right now, so I'm just, if you want to, you can just hop in right here. What? Yeah, just a couple. We started at 6, so it's all good.
I thought it was 6:30.
No, it's all good. It's all good. If you want to jump in, I was just introducing you, and we were just talking a little bit about some COVID stuff and whatnot beforehand, before we got into everything we were going to get into. So, don't worry about it. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. For those of you who couldn't hear, he thought he was early. That was miscommunication on my part. That mic's all live, ready to go. So feel free. You can just talk right in. How you been, man?
Nah, I've been good. I'm good.
It's good to see you in person this time, and not trying to figure it out from my end. We messed up with all of the tech stuffs last time. So
that was a little bit of an experience. I think I was just starting out with the software I was using too. So.
And that was StreamYard, right?
Yeah, StreamYard. Now I'm a ninja with it, but.
Yeah, now you know what you're doing. So what have you been up to since the last time I've seen you?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that one. So, been getting a lot more active with BLM movement. Mm-hmm. Public engagement, since we last talked, now we're talking about local statues going up or coming down. Mm-hmm. So that's
where at?
So there is a Christopher Columbus statue in Kenosha.
Okay.
So Kenosha has a very proud and very decent sized Italian community. Mm-hmm. So understandably so, there's people who are like, hey, we don't want our guy torn down.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of different varied factions who are like anywhere from tear it down to put up a plaque, explaining his full story. So having that whole gambit of that conversation. So then people like me swimming in the middle, trying to figure out a solution that gets everybody together.
Yeah. And so I've been, checking out your page every now and again on Facebook and whatnot, and just kind of seeing you've been facilitating a lot of conversation. I see you posing questions and people coming back
to you. I think the world has enough people declaring. So the idea is more people asking questions is not a horrible thing. Mm-hmm. And more people being clear about what their goal is.
Yeah.
Do you want to be right, or do you want to connect? Do you want to come to a conclusion?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people right now, honestly, I just think they're just trying to get free therapy. They just yell at some people online because their parents aren't around to yell at or something. I don't know.
I could see that for sure. Yeah, that's interesting. I've been seeing. I try not to get into it too bad because sometimes I'll see you pose a question and get into the comments, and sometimes some people get a little nasty. But usually you handle them pretty well, which I think it's always interesting and kind of fun to watch.
Oh yeah, I mean,
well.
It's much easier than combat. So I'm always personally tickled when people think they're being tough online.
Yeah, especially in a Facebook comment section.
Oh yeah,
it's an interesting space.
And Kenosha's not that big an area. I mean, I know it's bigger than Twin Lakes here, but it's not that big. So when some guy is tough and talking all tough, you'll see me say that. I'm like, you realize I'm going to run into you in the grocery store or something, and all this bravado, you're just going to lose it completely. And I just tell the future to guys, like, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to see you face to face, and you're going to give a weak smile.
Yeah.
And you're going to put your hand out as if nothing's changed, and you're going to find me talking to you face to face the same way I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because you'll then run into them and I'm like, hey, Ray. And I'm like, there's that fake smile I told you about.
Yeah. We had a guy on last week and we were talking about, he hasn't, he gets into a lot of arguments on Facebook as well over political issues and things like that. And he said he won't delete anybody. He's only had to delete one person. Where do you stand on like deleting people that are just downright like not, I guess.
I think I've deleted less than 5 people over the last 8-9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure 3 of them had like mental health issues.
Yeah.
Like schizophrenia or something like that. So that was the reasoning behind it. I think that's usually what it is. Usually it's mental health. Like it's obvious there's a mental health issue. If you have the courage to talk on my page, you know, if you have that courage, I'll let you talk.
Yeah.
But usually people block themselves or delete themselves out.
That makes sense.
Because it's kind of hard to swim in my waters.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you're an intelligent guy, and you understand what's going on in a way that.
It's not just me. If you look at that network of people that engage, it's almost like a fight house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not me personally; it's my gym.
Gotcha.
But there's some serious thinkers in there. You know, people don't wear their labels on my page, but a good chunk of my page is theologians, pastors, researchers, scientists, professors. So if you're just crawling on my page thinking you're talking to ordinary people, I'd say probably 10% of my page is professors. So
yeah, wow.
They're like, if you want to jump in the ring and, you know.
Yeah, these people can write essays. These people know what they're talking about.
And they hold me accountable. So if you think about that, I have those types of people watching me. So I like it because it keeps me on my game. You know, don't mention Wittgenstein or Nietzsche. Don't mention them unless you know what you're talking about.
Exactly, yeah.
So
what I wanted to, I saw something you posted earlier today was, I think I screenshotted it, and it was about the Bears with the kneeling and whatnot.
Oh, so you picked the one satire that I showed?
I wanted to ask you about it because I didn't know what was going on. And I am like a Chicago sports fan.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's very bad. But for most of my life at least. But I saw that you posted this, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't really have time to read the article.
So the story is satire, but the spirit behind the wording, I say that a lot. So the story you're talking about, it basically said that the owners of the Bears, in honor of Ditka, they said anyone who kneels, they're going to fire.
Okay. But it was a joke,
It's a satire.
Okay, gotcha.
But what you saw me writing was, true or not, if you own your football team, I respect your courage to make such a stand. Because imagine if a football owner did say that. We've now drawn some lines in the sand.
Yeah.
So if you continue supporting that team, after they do that, he wins.
Yeah.
If you're like, I don't like what he stands for, but I still buy the jerseys and I still buy the tickets, I stop listening to you. You've proven that your values are not truly your values.
Yeah.
But if that guy is willing to go out of business for what he believes in, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And coming back to us kind of not making it about us, I think it's possible to respect someone and completely disagree with them, but respect them from having some principled values. I would completely respect a guy who's willing to go out of business.
Damn.
For something like that. I'm not going to help you eat.
Yeah.
But I'll be like, hey, someone marked that man's bravery in a notebook. That was impressive. Yeah. Let's read about it later.
Impressive in a destructive way, I would say, for him and his business. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well, that's the thing with falsehoods. Without getting too philosophical, when you're not about truth, eventually that's the kind of outcomes you can expect. Truth, you don't break truth. So when you tell a lie, you're not breaking truth. You don't make truth go away.
Yeah.
You break yourself against truth.
Interesting.
So if you are a person who says, you know what, this diversity mumbo jumbo, this gender equality, it's all garbage. I'm not hiring any women and I'm not hiring any minorities. The truth is a stronger company has women and a stronger company has diversity. That truth is not going to break. You're not going to prove that wrong. You're going to break against that truth, and eventually someone's going to put you out of business.
Yeah, I think we got into that last time a little bit too, with talking about different, like we had used the analogy with sports and teams having different players with different assets and whatnot.
Right.
Kind of the similar, to make up a similar thing like that. I wanted you'd mentioned when you were kind of spitballing some topics that you wanted to get into about how you've been using BLM to leverage other ideas and kind of, I guess, as we talked earlier, facilitate other conversations and whatnot. What are some of those things, and like what kind of responses have you been getting on that?
So much like online, I noticed that there was a lot of conversations about BLM, but BLM was not in the room. It's kind of like, those guys who are always talking about girls, but there's never any girls around. So their conversation about girls gets really weird,
Yeah, that's very true.
It's like if you walk in and you hear them, you're like, have you guys ever actually talked to a girl?
Yeah.
Like those kinds of conversations. So I found BLM's not very different, where you had people having these entire conversations, and I would literally just ask them, like, do you have any black friends?
Yeah.
I know black people. That's not what I asked you. I didn't ask you, do you work with black people?
Yeah.
Do you have any black friends? Of course I have black friends. You want to just tag them in here? Because I'm curious to know what kind of black person hangs out with a person who talks the way you talk. I'm intrigued. I'm not going to say they don't exist, but I would like to meet this animal.
Yeah.
And what I found 100% of the time, they didn't have a friend.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this right now. Someone's like, I think you're a racist, Ray, and there's no possible way you have white friends. I don't even have to ask.
Yeah.
White guys will just come out of the woodwork. Nope, here we are. Here we are. So coming back to that, let's first keep it real and keep it honest. Now, you're not a bad person because you don't have black friends. And that's what you normally see people doing. They're like, listen, I have my family, I have my work, I just don't have time, or I live in an area where there's not a lot of black people around.
Yeah.
Totally understandable. But let's go back to it. I don't have any Native American friends.
Yeah.
I don't sit around talking about Native Americans.
Yeah.
Before I did, I would go find some Native Americans. If you're talking about people that are not in the room, that's probably the beginning of the problem.
Yeah.
So this facilitating that I was sharing with you is me basically saying, tell you what, I will be your black friend. When you have one of those silly little things you guys are talking about, instead of you just sitting there in the room like those awkward guys talking about girls, imagine if those guys had a girl they could call. I'm like, is this true about girls? He's like, no, that's stupid. Where did you get that from? Anime? And kind of help them go on the right path.
Yeah.
Which is where most of those guys get their stuff from, anime. Same thing with this. Instead of anime, they have Fox News. And they have all these ideas, and it's like, Ray, and that's my openness. Like, you can ask me, run anything and everything by me. So it started out at an individual level. But there's a lot of people in this world. So we had to scale it, had to go to groups, to where now that's what I'm doing. I'm going to nonprofits, for-profit groups, and saying, let's talk about BLM. And we go through these sessions, these educations, and allow people to get it out, And at the same time, because, the quintessential Black Lives Matter questions, what do you guys want? What is your goal? What is your aims? And we go through these questions, and it gets very interesting, but also very expected, to where even when you're talking to a church group, they'll ask you the same type of questions because, no group is a monolith.
Yeah.
So I'd say right now the church in America is probably split 50-50. So you have people in the church who are asking you the same kinds of things that you probably expect the worst type of person to ask. But we're not going to get anywhere if they can't ask. Let's talk it out. So we go through these things.
It's very true.
And the goal is just try to make the BLM movement and black people human to people who don't interact with black people. That's really what's going on.
Yeah. So that's a really good way of putting it too, because I think kind of going back to what you said earlier about how it seems like some people just want free therapy with just shouting their opinions just to shout their opinions. I think it's really interesting when someone like you or someone who's willing to have these conversations with these people and be like, we don't win by you just yelling this thing and then getting off Facebook and me yelling back at you, whatever. Like, we win when you understand what I'm saying and I understand what you're saying. And then,
Right.
because I think a lot of people too, I want to actually know what you feel about the whole defund the police and how it's been like marketed to a lot of small-minded people that like live in areas like this, where they just think like, so you guys don't want police officers, you want to get rid of all the cops and whatever, and not really understanding what's going on. And I actually I don't agree with where they stand, but I do think that it was like almost a knowingly, like, we made the wrong decision to market it in that way as a defund the police, which it is defunding the police and, reallocating funds and retraining and all these other things. But I do understand the criticism of like just the words defund the police and how knee jerk,
Right.
redneck so-and-so somebody is going to feel a way about that.
So I will say this first. If I speak and you don't understand me, it's my failure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, key word, if you don't understand. I didn't say if you refuse truth or
Yeah.
you shut down. If I don't speak in a way that you can understand, the failure is on my part. So I will agree with you that if you use terms like defund the police to a general public, they heard things you didn't say. But you
Yeah.
have to realize that's what they heard. They heard you say, shut it all down and let criminals run rampant. You didn't say that,
Yeah.
but that's what they heard. You should have taken the responsibility as the speaker to engage that.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, we can all take responsibility.
Yeah.
Defund the police does not mean I want crime. Defund the police does not mean I won't stand up another police force after I defund this one like they did in Camden, New Jersey. So normally when we talk about defunding the police, we're saying this house can't be rehabbed, can't be remodeled. Let's tear this house down and build a new house. That's usually, I don't even say usually, that's what we mean when we say defund the police. And this has happened. And by the way, Camden, New Jersey, a great success story.
Really, I didn't read anything up on it yet.
8 years ago, it was just so bad that they voted to defund their police. They shut them down, stood up. So this allowed them to, instead of going through the rigmarole of firing lazy guys and all this stuff, they just got rid of all of them in one fell swoop.
Wow.
They then, the next day, stood up a new police force and said, anybody who wants to apply for a job here can apply for a job.
Wow.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
So here we are 7-8 years later, and Camden, New Jersey's crime is down 42%, and taxes are down as well. So they were paying all this money to an ineffective, inefficient police force.
Yeah.
The public is not crazy for saying, I want something that works better for less.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I think where I see a lot of disconnect with people over social media, I guess, because I haven't really been going out like that, especially with quarantine and stuff like that. And now, or I guess the lack thereof now, I haven't really been going out and seeing a lot of people face to face, but over social media, I will see things where it's like, who are you going to call when someone
that's a
breaks
Trump
your house?
commercial.
That's I think they literally, I saw someone tweeted it and it was so funny. It was they'd quoted the commercial and it was like, you realize they're showing what is going to be Biden's America, what they say will be Biden's America, while showing videos of Trump's current America. And it was because they were showing videos from the protests and stuff like that. And that cracked me up. I can't lie.
I didn't even catch that one. I think about you want it both ways. You're saying you need all your guns because you can't rely on the government.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying we take away the government, then everything falls under. Which one is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's very true. And that's something that I've noticed a lot in like people that are far I don't even like using like the terms like far right or left or whatever, but like very right wing people have those same like ideologies where anything police, it's pro police, pro this, pro what Trump does, whatever. But then when it's like, hey, we just want to like regulate and or like tax or this or that, and it's like, well, we don't want government in this. We don't want government in our businesses. We don't want government in whatever. And I don't know if it might have been Rogan. So this could be quoting someone that didn't know what they were talking about, but I believe it was on a podcast I was listening to a while back. And it was, They were talking about the BP oil spills,
Okay.
and what year was that when that?
Oh man, I know there'd be a test. BP oil spills, that early aughts, I thought.
Because so it was like a few years prior, and I think there was a big push from like left wing politicians to get, like, they wanted to mandate, while they were building some more like additions to the rigs, they wanted to mandate and tax and like do this thing or whatever. It was like this big bill to ensure that the things would be regulated by our government. And BP didn't want that, and conservatives pushed, they didn't want it as well. And what ended up happening was, because it wasn't regulated, they didn't choose to replace, there was like one valve. It's a huge, ridiculously huge valve, but it was one specific piece that they didn't, because it wasn't regulated, didn't replace it in the appropriate amount of time. And that's why the initial break happened. And then what happens once it breaks? They want the government to come in and bail them out,
Right.
and help them pay for it, because it's our country and all this yada yada. But if our country had been involved in regulating that rig, then good chance that wouldn't have happened. Or if it did, then it would be on the government to fix.
Well, that's kind of like, I got a series of little jokes. So everything I don't like is communism. Everything that I don't like is tyranny and oppression.
Yeah.
Anything that doesn't match my feelings is a violation of freedoms. So that's kind of what you're calling out there, where it's not communism when you give it to me.
Yeah.
It's not socialism when I benefit. There was no benefit holding me accountable on the front side, but there is a benefit bailing me. There is a benefit bailing me out on the back side when I have to take consequences. So even with that oil spill, if you look at it, it decimated the economy of conservative areas.
Yeah.
So it's another form of protectionism. Protectionism often hurts the very people it's supposed to protect. It makes them weaker. You're seeing that here in Wisconsin right now with the farmers getting all this year in and year out protection, because that's the American thing, so you bail them out, you give them all this money, it makes them weaker. So it makes them harder to compete against the people who don't get bailouts, like China and Canada. They actually have to hustle to compete.
Yeah.
So they become better and better. They have to keep improvising.
What's going on with our farms? I didn't know what was going on.
Well, we have record bankruptcy rates right now.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
In which?
Even before COVID. So if you think about it, let's say I want to protect you. So I just give you good grades instead of you having to actually go to school and study.
Yeah.
But to keep up with you, the other kids actually have to study, and they have to study harder.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens?
They're going to get better. Yeah.
They get smarter. They can actually apply it. You, after you graduate, you now need my help to do your work at your job.
Yeah.
You become more and more of a liability. You become weaker and weaker. You fall further behind your peers.
Yeah.
So
it's like enabling, kind of.
So what you did with that is American farms can't compete. So your larger companies, your larger corporations, Monsanto Group, Cargill, they kind of just come in and swallow them. And that's what you see happening. They're just bankrupting them and swallowing them all up. So you're very intense to protect the family farm. You help hasten their destruction.
Wow. Yeah, I had no idea that was going on with our farms.
We got so much going on right
Yeah.
now. It's kind of like pick your cause.
Yeah, that makes that makes a lot of sense. I think it was along the same lines. I had.
Oh, you asked me about defund. So
yes, yeah.
Defund the police. So this is what I'm pushing right now. I am working with some elected officials. So I started out with a 4-point plan. It's since been added on, but the first 4 parts are double police salary, double police training budget, make it twice as hard to become a cop, and make it twice as hard to stay a cop. So that was my original idea.
Yeah.
So why do I want to double the salary? You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
If I go to a bar where the waitresses are paid $2.35 an hour, and most of the guys in the bar are drinking Bud Light, so they toss a nickel at her every third beer, I should not be surprised if she's a little short with me.
Yeah, yeah.
shouldn't be surprised. I mean, she's making jack.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, making
If
nothing.
I was working there, I'd probably hate everyone coming in too.
Mm.
So treat the profession to the level of respect we want it to operate at.
Yeah.
I was a young officer in the military. I was making six figures when I deployed.
Wow.
You now have police officers, 10, 15-year, 20-year veterans, on average making 65, 70K. I'll tell you this right now. If I'm 15 years in the job and I'm only making 65K, putting my life on the line, yeah, I think you might expect me doing some things you don't want me doing.
Yeah. Or at least not being as like doing your due diligence.
Not being as diligent.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I didn't count the money that well at the drug bust. Maybe someone in my wallet. So let's acknowledge first that these are humans, and this is not an easy profession or an easy job.
Yeah.
So if you want this higher level of police officer, put up the cash. Now, a lot of people say, where was the money going to come from? To your point, as you kind of said earlier, pay the cops the money up front instead of rebuilding your city.
Yeah.
Think of how much money you're paying to rebuild these cities after the riots. How about you allocate from your riot fund
Yeah.
and just pay the cops on the front side?
Yeah.
Probably a lot easier.
Yeah, a lot easier and a lot less time consuming too.
A lot less time consuming. Or let's have a moment of honesty and say you don't really like cops that much and you'd rather roll the dice with a riot and rebuild the city every 5 or 10 years. Show that honesty, because I'll tell you, from my experience, most people with the back to badge flags and signs, they really don't respect cops as human beings. They like police officers the way that they like a waiter that does what they're told.
Mm.
They don't see them as a person. They just see them as an object that facilitates a thing. But the moment they hear that a police officer is a human being and has needs, they're not interested anymore. You see this with our veterans. When they find out you're a veteran, thank you for your service. But when they find out you don't like Trump, F you, man.
Yeah. Well, it's that, I think that, I don't know if you, I think we talked about Jon Stewart a little bit last time around, because I'm a huge Jon Stewart fan, and back when he was fighting for the 9/11 first responders, and now everybody, they don't keep that same energy. It's, oh yeah, we back the fire department, we back the badge, and all these firefighters and police officers that were there that day and now are battling various cancers and whatnot that were proven to be from this place,
Right.
from this site. They couldn't get their benefits for years and years and years. And he was, I mean, I think he said that he was, of his, like, he'd expressed his gratitude of like being like the face of it, but like it wasn't, you know, it was just him and trying to help these people out and leveraging his celebrity basically. And imagine if Jon Stewart wouldn't, when he had the biggest show in the world, wouldn't have decided to help these people.
And sadly,
And it
he
was
had to shame
conservatives.
people. He had to shame people into doing the things they pretend to claim about
And yeah, it
or
was
care
a
about.
lot of conservative congressmen that were the ones directly saying no, and then every time they'd be asked about it, they would dodge the question, and then when it came time to vote, they would be saying, "No, we want to look it over again." And what are you looking over?
Now, people on my side, they're like, you want to reward the bad cops. No, follow the steps. If you double police salaries, there's a guy who's like, I would be a cop, but I'm not working for 45 grand starting pay.
Mm-hmm.
90, that guy's like, yeah, I think I want to look at this again. So what would happen is you increase the pool of people going in, okay? The quality. Now, again, you're going to get some guys that are just there for the money, of course, but you at least get some better quality coming into the pool.
Yeah.
There's a reason why every year when Harvard Business School graduates their business grads, there's a reason why 50% of them are not going nonprofit, okay?
Yeah.
There's a reason, and it's not because they're jerks. It's because, do I make 300 grand a year or do I make 35 grand a year? Decisions.
Yeah, that's
So increase the pay.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely right, because that's what, I mean, it's not a, I mean, it's a livable wage, but it's not, I know kids, like people, we had a cop in Twin Lakes, I think he left, but he was like just 22 or 23 years old. And so, like, cool, he's living at home with his mom and dad, and that's a lot of, you know, $50K, $40K for him is a lot because he doesn't have a lot of bills and whatnot. But, you know, a grown man trying to support for his wife and maybe several kids, that's, especially like you said, risking your life every day, potentially, that's not really worth that.
Because look what you're doing. if you're not paying them appropriately, because you do have good cops, you're basically asking them to sacrifice their earning potential to do the right thing.
Yeah.
You're putting them in that weird position of, do I do this job for the calling, for the love of it, or do I do this job, or do I leave this job and take care of my family? So you're putting that stress at home anyway. Let's make it to where they don't have to choose.
Yeah.
Make it to where doing this calling, you can also take care of your family and have a house and have things like that. Because you will get those guys who are doing it for the right reasons despite not getting paid right. But you're also going to get a whole bunch of dirtbags who are like, it's the only thing I can get.
Yeah.
And I don't have any competition.
Yeah.
And I got beat up a lot in high school, so I'd really want to pull over some of those guys now. So.
Yeah. What do you think? You mentioned double how hard it is to become a cop.
Okay.
So how do you suppose that they do that?
So one of the detailed points we talked about was making it twice as hard to become a cop. So right now in Kenosha, once you become a cop, there is a board that has seats of citizens. So it's like the mayor, other people, but there's a couple seats for citizens to sit on this board and analyze cops once they're cops. Like say, okay, this is how you're working. We like this. We don't like this. I think that's too late. Do this just like Survivor. While you're at police academy, we should be able to vote you off the island. So we talked about a thing where your first 3 months when you're going through gateway training or whatever, you have to do a certain amount of time with just a T-shirt, no gun, no badge, but a T-shirt maybe with the police insignia on it, and you have to engage the public. Maybe you're one of those creepers where people talk to you. So let's say you have to talk to 60 people in the community.
Yeah.
And they get to write a card about you and send it back in. And you get ranked at the bottom of your peer group. You're in the bottom 10%. No questions asked. You just don't get the job.
Yeah.
Because people collectively can read things. Right now, there's no input into it. So make it twice as hard to become a police officer. Right now, we've heard about this, where a cop gets fired or kicked out from this side and he moves on over here. Yeah. Add that to it, where you have to do that wherever you worked before, and you sign this release. You sign this release to work here, letting us look at your records.
Yeah.
Now, if you refuse to sign it, just like me in the workforce, when I want to get a job, they say, sign this release allowing us to see your records. If I say no, they say, we understand, we respect your privacy. They don't hire me.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
They don't already do that?
No.
That's insane to me.
No, they don't.
That's ridiculous. And so you said there's only a couple people then, like from the public, that get to help in that
on
decision?
the board after you become a police
and it's
officer.
exactly.
So
it's already
basically
after.
the police are deciding on their own who gets to come into the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the public has a vested interest the moment you're even being looked at.
Yeah, I think so too.
So let them in as early in the shoot as possible.
Yeah, and I think that would weed out a lot of
because now
problems.
The community is picking their police officers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big issue right now. We didn't select these guys. We didn't pick these guys. It changed the dynamic. It creates ownership.
Yeah.
So now if you mess up, man, I can't believe I voted for you. You know, I can't believe I picked you. I now have ownership and responsibility for you and your actions and your behaviors.
Yeah, and then I feel like you'll be more engagement then from the community as well. And I think that's, going back to even just trying to discuss different topics and, talking points. I think that's important to have everybody being engaged.
Right. Another thing that we talked about in the points was in the military, so we can say, 5 guys can say they're in the Army. But then you say, what's your MOS? What's your specialty? Right now, I mean, try to name some specialties for police. What can you think off the top of your head? Specialties in the police.
I don't have any. That's something that we've talked about on the show.
If you wrapped your head, maybe you'd be like, SWAT. So
okay,
violence specialist.
Yeah. And
then bomb guys. That's most what other people can come up with.
Yeah.
That's what even Vice or anything like that. It's just you are elevated crime. Mm-hmm. We're seeing that now where I say why not have, coming back to these prospects that maybe they're not built for gun work, okay? Maybe you are not built for walking around the streets with a gun. Why can't we have police officers like, oh, what kind of police officer are you? Oh, I'm mental health.
We talked about this the last like 3 weeks on the show.
Okay.
Where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me when, maybe a couple is, there's like a domestic, sound ordinance. A neighbor calls the cops because they hear a couple screaming at each other, the guy's drunk, woman's drunk, whatever. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for a big-chested cop to come up to the guy with his gun and taser ready to go and be like, you causing an issue? We got to take you out of here? And just start, poking kind of douchey questions with the gun right there. And I think that doesn't do anything to de-escalate the situation. And we talked about having, people there to de-escalate that. Why are you calling the cops for that? Why are dudes that are trained to disarm criminals with weapons that can kill other people? Why are those people coming for that? They don't have any training like that.
We kind of skipped the training part, but one thing that, engaging my friends that are police officers, the training's kind of messed up from the beginning.
Really? How so?
So when I'm in the Army, we used to go through shoot houses, okay, training. Or we build these mock towns, actually. So these streets, these entire mock towns and streets. And you would be walking through, and it was find the bad guy. So you'd have like these pop-ups or whatever, and the majority were non-combatants. There was few actual bad guys. When I talk to my friends that are cops and they talk about going to the shoot house, the majority of the targets are criminals. There's only a few innocents. Mm-hmm. So think about that mindset. If I send you through a shoot house where 99% of the targets are bad guys, and there's only one little white schoolgirl with the pigtails, I'm conditioning you to, if it moves, shoot it.
Yeah.
So digging deeper into this idea of when to shoot and when not to shoot. So when I was in the Army, we had conversations about what if I don't shoot when I should have. So we're going to have 4 boxes. Keep them in your head.
Okay.
I don't shoot and I should have. That means me and or my buddies, we now are dead. That was a bad guy. I hesitated. There's an opposite box. I shot when I should not have. Meaning I pulled the trigger and I shouldn't have. So let's talk about those 2 boxes.
Yeah.
The other 2 are pretty straightforward. I didn't shoot when I shouldn't have. Great. Mm-hmm. I shot when I should have. You get your medal.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these 2 boxes, though.
Yeah.
How often are you going to have an event where you should have shot? That's not every day. Despite what people see on TV, cops don't roll out every single day dumping rounds.
Yeah.
It's actually a very rare thing for a police officer. To run into a police officer that says, I've used my service weapon 10 times. That is like, whoa, where were you?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So the conversation in America overwhelmingly talks on that part, that rare event where they need to use their weapon.
Yeah.
The majority of the conversation and the training should be on when you don't. Coming back to my Army time, that's where we spent most of our conversation. If you shoot bad, you're going to Leavenworth for 20 years. If you shoot bad, you're never going to see the light of day. If you get itchy and you open fire in this market, we've talked about the one that you control, and it's much more likely because every day you roll out is an opportunity for you to shoot when you should not have. Mm-hmm. Every single day you go out. So every day a police officer goes out, that is another day where he can shoot when he should not have.
Yeah, and very rarely is it the other box.
But we spend most of the conversation on that other box. It should be more balanced.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think we spend so much of the conversation focused on that?
The public has a short attention span.
That's definitely true.
We like these nice, digestible ideas. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that was very shocking for me coming home and like cops get hero status as soon as they graduate police academy. Like, just for finishing police academy, you're now a hero. Yeah. And you'll hear people say that. Oh, you just finished police academy? You're a hero, son. I'm like, I don't think that's what the word hero means.
Yeah.
You actually have to do something.
Heroic, yeah.
Preferably heroic.
Yeah.
Preferably heroic. So I think we've built a monster. When you tell police officers that they deserve to go home, that is a dangerous concept. Very dangerous. You give somebody a gun and you say, you deserve to go home. Even worse if you say, no matter what. Coming back to infantry, you were told very clearly, mission first. People always, but mission first. Yes, it may very well end up that you die cold and alone on the side of a mountain. If that is not a possible future reality you're comfortable with, maybe this is not the line of work for you. Yeah. It's part of the job. No one would ever dare tell a group of 19-year-old infantry boys, you deserve to come home, fellas. Do what you got to do. Because if you say that, you know what's going to happen? Instead of actually going inside the house to make sure that it's clear, they're just going to start throwing grenades through the window. A lot safer.
Yeah.
Just chuck a grenade into every house.
Yeah.
That is the danger of giving people guns and then telling them things like that. So when I say the training, it's not that these evil people are saying, I want to be evil, and they become cops. We are feeding the wrong messages, and we are supporting the wrong thing. And even that training, like I have not found a single police force to tell me that they do it differently about the shooting. Like I've asked around, can someone name a single place where police, when they go train to shoot, at least 10%, it should be more than that.
Yeah.
But in real life, most people are not running around shooting at cops.
Yeah.
So why is your shoot house, why is your target practice time, the majority of the targets are criminals? Why are you doing that for cops?
Yeah.
They should be training for the reality that they're in.
Yeah.
You're training them for no holds barred,
yeah.
total war.
Yeah, that's insanity. So that kind, and I think that goes back to too, like when you say you shouldn't tell, cops or even younger infantry guys that message. I think that because you were explaining before with doubling the pay, and I think when that pay is more substantial, then not that money is comparable to life, but then I think, as you were saying, then maybe this job isn't for you if that's not a risk that you can take.
Right.
And so I think, I think that that's actually really smart then to be adding in that additional financial compensation and whatnot, because not that you, like I said, not that you can really value that up to a life, but I mean, if you were getting paid substantially more doing the line of work you were doing, if we're trying to assume that they're doing a similar line of work,
right,
the compensation should be similar.
I want to say the divorce rate for infantry is like 65%, but I think the divorce rate is about the same for police officers. So it's a very stressful life. So it's not paying them to be nice. Not everybody who goes into police work does 20 years. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about sports real quick. Baseball, the average career is like 20 years.
Yeah.
Or it's pretty high up there.
Mm-hmm.
The average career for football and basketball, I think it's like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
It burns you out.
The NFL I think it's like 3. Yeah.
I think it's like 3 years. Police work is not that different from social work. Most people don't make it through 20. It is demanding, stressful work. So pay them the higher amount out of respect for the life that the job drains out of them. Mm-hmm. Because not everybody's built for doing 20.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, and I think it makes sense if we value it as such a, especially right now with every it's kind of the hot topic and everything, rightfully so. If we want them, like you were saying, to do a better job, why we're not going to compensate them accordingly then?
Right. Show how much you care.
I think how do you feel then about I mean, it's a little off topic, but then with teachers and stuff too, because a lot of people teachers are always very upset about their compensation.
What do rich people do?
I'd invest in the stock market.
What? No, with education. Do they tolerate their children in the school system with the underpaid teachers?
No.
Or do they shell out cash? Think about what a rich person does. When they send their kids to private school, they still have to pay the taxes for the public school.
Yeah.
They're basically saying, my children's education means so much. I will keep paying for that and still pay these ridiculous sums for my kids to go here. Now, I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying crappy teachers, good teachers. In actuality, the statistics support the fact that the teachers at public schools are just as good as the teachers at private schools.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is at a private school, they have more control over their money.
Mm-hmm.
So where in a public school, we only have funding for 2 counselors, even though this school needs 8. These schools don't need counselors, but we have the position, so we have these counselors sitting there. Public school has a lot of bureaucratic tape to ever deal with that, and meanwhile, some kids graduated out.
Yeah.
Private school, they can say, hey, these parents are paying us. Put additional teachers in that room, put additional counselors in that room, put a therapist in that room. We got the money, and they move in real time. So that is more about, again, resourcing and control, flexibility.
Do you think there's any way that you can, not even, I mean, I don't want to say apply that to, but some sort of way that you can do something similar then with police then to, I mean, other than I guess just paying them more would.
Well, again, double the training budget. I'm not saying buy them twice as many bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Double the training budget. I mean, as a taxpayer, instead of cops sitting around trying to frame kids doing these crazy drug buys, I'd rather they have some special forces or ex-CIA guys come in and say, this is how you find people. Instead of you setting up all these dummy buys, sitting around having guys lie about buys to get themselves out of their own trouble, instead of going through all that, here's how we did things overseas. I'd rather learn from the best. Yeah. Give them the money to truly do the things they need to do.
Yeah.
So I think we're trying to coupon clip our way to prosperity. And I'm not against coupons, but coupons are not the path to prosperity. You need to find a way to bring in more money.
Yeah.
And this translate, and it will translate to where, so someone doesn't like, oh, this guy only loves cops. If your cops are better and they're doing better things, guess what? Decent people stay in your town.
Yeah. And the cops are going to be there longer too.
Because you look at areas that are hurting right now, especially in the Midwest, they have 2 things going on. The brain drain. The younger kids who are intelligent enough, they get out and they don't come back.
Yeah.
Also, when people hear about these areas and their problems and their backwater ways, no, people are not saying, hey, let's go move out to the boonies.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what's happening. So, yeah, I drove into here. It's just like a wall of Trump 2020.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Freedom. Let them do that.
Yeah.
But a guy like me, a family like mine, why would we come here?
Yeah.
That hurts this area. You have tax revenues. You have tax bases.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back to Kenosha, median income is $28,000 a year.
That's not very good.
So you want to build those people up. You need to give somebody a reason to move in the area. Bezos came, gave you some box chucking jobs.
Yeah.
But if you want better jobs, you need to make it a better place. You could have a job out here that pays $250K. I am not coming out here.
Yeah.
Why?
You just don't want, I mean, who would, with all due respect to the area, I guess, who would want to?
Well, I'm not going to say who would want to. If I have options, why would, there's nothing welcoming.
What is the benefit? What is the benefit?
I'm looking at
is what
Trump
you're saying.
every day on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
So if I come into an area that has nothing but Trump signs, that's not welcoming for me.
Mm-hmm.
They've committed no crimes. But why would I put my wife and my kids in this situation?
Yeah.
Shoot. What do we even do with $250,000 out here?
I don't know.
Spend some trucks? We don't even... So it's like, these are the things that people don't realize they hurt themselves. You want to be as welcoming as possible. You want to be as open to everybody. Same way I wouldn't want a place in the city that if somebody had a Trump sign, their car got egged or something. I don't want to live there. Because basically you're saying anybody that disagrees with you, they're going to get ostracized and attacked.
Yeah.
What if I disagree with you tomorrow? So I just talked about paying cops double.
Yeah.
So you're going to attack my car today. I wouldn't want to live on the liberal side of that extremity either. But this is extreme out here.
No, yeah, it very much is.
But extremes don't survive very well.
Yeah.
They're kind of outliers if you look at it. Coming back to diversity and bringing fresh blood in.
Mm-hmm.
This it goes a certain way.
Yeah. Well, and even like you said with like the brain drain, and that's something that actually I think they mentioned when I was studying last year in I think it was one of my economic classes. And yeah, a lot of kids, I have a lot of friends, and I personally plan to leave this area. And I have a lot of friends that, went to college in, Ohio, Indiana, places like that. And they like it so much there. They don't even really like necessarily the state as a whole, but they just love the city and the like openness of like the open-mindedness of the people around them, and not, this small town, small-minded.
Now let's look at how your life, you're going to represent all people your age now. You're younger now, so you want to get the heck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go somewhere else and give somewhere else the best years of your life. Now, statistically, it's like a 50-50 coin toss because you're from this area.
Mm-hmm.
You'll come back near the later years in your life.
Interesting.
But look what happened to this area. They didn't get your best years. They didn't get your highest income. When you're on the down end, you're like, you know what? I want a cheaper place to live, quieter, out of the way.
Yeah.
That's when you come back. So what you end up is like having this Florida community in the middle of the Midwest, where you have a lot of older people on the tail end of their careers, on the tail end of their lives. Or you have people working jobs to support such a community.
Yeah.
So that's why I drove by all those oil change places and car shops and truck places and service industry places. I didn't drive by that many banks.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't drive by that many law firms. So again, the area, even if they get you back later, they lost the best years of having you around. Someone else is going to get your best years if you do leave.
Interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting way of putting it. I never thought about it like that. And I've always, and I think too, like I'm actually really happy that I like grew up in an area like this. I didn't really have any, I guess I didn't really see all of the downsides to growing up here until the past couple of years. So
and that's the key word, growing up. I mean, maybe not this exact area.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about my life near the tail end, after working. I want to go somewhere like Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
Just somewhere out in the middle of nowhere that's cheap. I mean, think about it. If you're retiring, you don't want to be in a place where real estate doubles every year.
Yeah.
Because your income's not doubling every year.
Yeah.
You want to go somewhere like this where nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, you want to be where things are happening.
Yeah.
You don't want to watch paint dry.
Yeah, which is kind of what's going on out here. So that's kind of what's going on. So I think how many points did we get to of what you were talking with politicians about?
So we went through double their pay.
We got double the pay,
double their training,
and then
we talked about
double
making
training
twice
budget?
as hard to become a police officer.
Okay, gotcha.
We covered that.
Yeah,
and then twice as hard to stay a police officer.
That's what I was wondering. Is how you plan to or how you would maybe see something like that happening.
So I would see it as none of this. Once you're a cop, you stay a cop.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be a street cop, you should be able to run
Yeah.
the streets.
Yeah.
You won't find an infantry guy who's like 50 pounds overweight.
Yeah. That would be a little ridiculous.
You are a liability. So there should be some standards. Having said that, pay them for those standards.
Mm-hmm.
Pay them.
Yeah.
If you want a 45-year-old man to be able to run 3 miles, pay him to be in that kind of shape.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you this right now, most 19-year-olds I run into can't run 3 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you want a 45-year-old man to be able to do it, pay that man accordingly as the professional that he is.
Mm-hmm.
But no, make it twice as hard to stay a police officer. Make it twice as hard to stay in the field.
Yeah.
At the same time, give some avenues to where, you don't qualify to be in the field anymore. Make other pathways, kind of what we were talking about before,
mm-hmm.
where the U.S. the Army, for example, only 11% of all Army personnel is combat arms. So even though you think about the Army, only 11%.
Yeah,
it feels like to me my police is like 55-60%
mm-hmm.
force in the streets.
Yeah.
And that comes to a point where, you're hearing about a young police officer going out, and there's some places where they maybe get a ride along their first little bit of time, then they're out there by themselves.
Yeah.
We never did that to privates in the Army. We didn't say, okay, you finished basic training, go walk around over there by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We never did that. So these are things to support your people, but also support them as the person throughout their career.
Yeah. I think that's really important, because then it's a more appealing. I think that would bring better people in, like you were talking about earlier with the pool of people, the kind of people going into that sort of thing, knowing that there's other options, that it's not like this pro athlete. I have to hope I can, make it, and then I only get this amount of years to be really good and be in the streets and all that, yada yada. But to have other chances to maybe, for growth, I guess. I think that's important. I think that would help a lot of people decide.
Unfortunately, we, the general public, it seems like most of the time we're only talking about police officers when they do something wrong. Don't get me wrong. We need to talk about it.
Yeah.
But they still are human beings. And if we truly cared about this situation, maybe we talk to them beforehand.
Yeah.
Coming back to putting us into that before you were even hired. Now, that's our responsibility. Now, if we don't show to that table, shame on us.
Mm-hmm.
But getting involved more often, making sure that our police officers are taken care of, and not just taken care of after a shooting, taken care of.
Yeah.
So there's ways to find an agreeable place for where we can say we want a higher standard, but we're willing to pay for it. So far, policemen often hear, we want a higher standard, and we're not giving you anything in addition. That who would take that deal?
Yeah, not many people. No, I would assume no one. But that's what I think. I think that's like what you're saying is really important. That police officers, we need to value them in a way that, obviously right now with the things that have been circulating, and it's one video after the next of somebody doing something wrong. We've talked about on this show a couple of times with people when I lived in Janesville and was playing basketball for the college there. We played basketball at a men's league every Tuesday and Thursday. Our team would go, and there would be guys that we knew that were dealing drugs that went to our school and whatever, and they'd be playing right alongside the sheriff, and not the sheriff, one of the higher ups there, and several other lesser, I don't know, police positions, but other police officers in Janesville, just regular guys. They're not they would make jokes to each other about hey, whatever, David, I'm going to give you a ticket for that, or some stupid, corny joke or whatever. But it was this is a human being, and I'm basically borderline friends with this person. So I know if I was a black person or if I was someone else, I know he knows me. I know he's not afraid of me. I know I don't have to be afraid of him if and when he does pull me over on the side of the road for speeding.
Well,
or whatever
I would
else.
recommend drug dealers not play
They probably
3-on-3
shouldn't.
with cops.
They probably shouldn't, but they're pretty ballsy out there. I'm not going to lie. They were rolling with it.
But no, if you think about what we're talking about here, it kind of leads to the connection piece, these things I'm facilitating, where you're saying, yes, we care about this enough to actually put some skin into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you mentioned some other groups. We do it. So there's other places we could do this, not just police, but also our teachers. We could care a little bit more and show that care. So I see there's a lot of opportunities for us as a whole to try to do better.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so you said you were talking with, I don't know if you can talk about that, but you said you were talking with some public officials and whatnot. How did you get involved with these people, and who, if you can say, are you talking to?
So how did I get involved? So kind of speaking the way I'm speaking now, things get out, someone reaches out. You know, if you do it enough, you'll catch a fish. Putting yourself out there, and I would say too, following through.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, a lot of it's just follow through.
Yeah.
So someone said, hey, I heard you talking. Can you write that up?
Mm-hmm.
So for the first person who asked, I had it written up in 48 hours and sent it to his office.
Yeah.
So then after that, if someone sees this right now and says, hey, I'm so-and-so with this sheriff department and this police department, we want to see what you got. I'm just going to punch on my phone and send it to him right then and there. There you go. Another thing that I do is I have decided that I want to win. So I say this to people. If you can make $10 and everybody knows about it, or $5 and nobody knows about it. Take the $5.
Why is that?
Think with the headache that comes when everybody knows what you have. Another way to think of it is, I maybe will ask a person, you're going to do something that impacts for the better 10 lives, but you get no credit. Or you impact one life, but everybody knows it was you. And I ask guys, which one do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, unfortunately, many say, why not both? If you say both, that means you're willing to take the one.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get into these conversations, care enough to not make it about you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care whose name gets put on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who. If no one ever cites me,
it
doesn't matter, which is the only reason I don't say the names, because if that's what I have to do to get into your door, to write up a bill for you.
Because you're more, you don't care about you getting the credit for it. You want the thing.
Like I want the thing.
You want the end goal.
And what you find is when you focus on the thing, you end up getting your credit.
Yeah.
It's no different than a guy
which makes sense.
Who's doing a commission job.
Enough.
He's like,
I think it's just that they started the dishwasher. It's ridiculous. They do that all the time. So it's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, if you focus on a thing, it usually is harder to get. It'd be like someone saying, I am finding my boyfriend or girlfriend tonight. I'm going on a dating app and I'm going to be in a relationship in a month. If you take that attitude, you're probably not going to find nobody.
Yeah.
But if you're just like, you know, I'm just going to live life and whatever happens, happens, you usually...
Yeah, if you just try and be the best person that you can be, you know, that's going to attract people.
I mean, which one's more attractive? Someone who's like, I'm lonely, so what are you doing?
Yeah.
Versus someone's like, I'm just living my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned again when you were kind of spitballing stuff, wanted to get into like men's mental health and everything, and I wanted to know what specifically you wanted to get into, because it's something personally that I've been becoming. I was mentioning earlier on the show before you'd gotten here that I've been trying to become more in tune with my own mental health, because I think I was letting it slide pretty bad the last couple of years.
So personally, I am diagnosed PTSD from my time in the military. So that was kind of like the beginning of it, where I was one of those guys who came home and I was like, not a scratch on me. I'm fine. It's like, it would take years to realize that just because you have no physical scars doesn't mean you came back untouched.
Mm-hmm.
So what I engage now in these conversations, when someone's like yelling, all lives matter, or I don't understand why blacks can't do this, I kept coming to these continual things. Lonely people with wounds.
Mm-hmm. It was like the hurt people kind of concept.
Yeah. So it just kept coming back to that, where this is not an exaggeration. I have never found a person or engaged a person who says all lives matter and they're happy.
Damn.
Never found a single person who, when they hear someone say Black Lives Matter and they spit back all lives matter. I don't care how much money they have. I don't care how much flash they have. They are not a happy person. So again, coming back, am I here to put them in the dirt, or am I here to win? Mm-hmm. I found that was an avenue of reaching people, of saying, you know, there's a lot of, like, here's one. There's a large population that says, how do I have white privilege? I work myself to the bone. I'm a construction worker. No one gives me a hand up. You know, I'm poor.
Mm-hmm.
How do I have privilege? And what you hear in that voicing is a person who works hard and doesn't feel like the world respects their work.
Mm-hmm.
And they're right.
And they're hurting, yeah.
So I talk to those guys. I go, let me ask you a question. If you live in a nation that doesn't respect another man's life, why are you surprised they don't respect your work?
Yeah.
And that's the question I put out there. If we live in a nation that's willing to say that human's life means little, why are you surprised that same corrupt culture will not give you credit for your actions? We can't even respect a human being.
Yeah.
Why do you think we would respect actions?
Job, yeah.
So yes, the same nation that can't respect the sanctity of life will not respect the man's time. Because when you work, that's your time. That's your life essence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, and if you look at the later years of Martin Luther King, these are kind of the concepts he was getting towards. He was saying, whites and blacks, especially on the poor end, they have a lot more in common than they think.
Mm-hmm.
You're an angry white guy because no one treats you with any respect. You work your butt off, but the boss is making more and more money every year, and you're making the same. You want respect for your work.
Yeah.
There's no world that will respect a man's actions that won't respect a man.
Yeah.
You got to go step by step. First, let's get respect for men. Then let's get respect for actions. Or honestly, because they're both broken and we can see them both, let's work in parallel. So we have these engagements where, meantime, what can you do? Sabbath. Most people, when they hear that, they're like, oh, no, he's about to make me go to church. Sabbath is about the fact that self-care, coming back to mental health. And women are in the workforce now, so we're seeing this happen with women, too. Women are losing their hair. Women are going bald because they're stressing out the same way guys are, to where people will not take a break. They will say, I can't take a break. I have to take care of my family. Work is killing us, to where people think they're taking care of their family, but you don't even see your family. And honestly, if you work yourself to an early grave, and I'm saying that literally, if you have a heart attack at 52, how is that helping your family when you could have took a Saturday off every week and lived to 75?
Yeah.
So I see a nation of people that don't take care of themselves. I see a nation that can't value each other's efforts and therefore can't value each other's lives. So I look at all the issues we have going on and I say it makes complete sense how things are the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to start with these roots and ask each other what matters.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were kind of looking, I know myself personally, I was kind of trying to ask myself those similar questions when quarantine started, because it's like, everything stopped. You're not just going to work aimlessly. You're not just doing whatever your weekly routine was. Everything kind of stopped. And it was like, whoa, you're kind of just in this room with these people. And like, what is really important to you at that point? And it was a weird experience for me. I mean, it's still, obviously with COVID still lingering and whatnot.
One of the previous Surgeon Generals, Vivek Murthy, he wrote a book called Connection.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how when he was Surgeon General traveling the nation, that was one of the number one things, the top things he saw that was afflicting America: loneliness and lack of relationship. Because again, to be sitting around talking about Black Lives Matter all day and you have no black friends, that's a disconnect. That is a lonely way to be.
Yeah.
No different than a guy sitting around talking about women all day, but they don't know any women.
Mm-hmm.
It messes with your soul.
Yeah.
And I think the only way out of this is for us to start engaging and start connecting. I mean, truthfully, I can't stand that word ally. I have no interest in being your ally. Brothers. Allies, it's a nice way of saying mutual mercenaries.
Yeah.
Allies basically says that while our interests align, we'll share this Uber ride together. But other than that, we don't know each other.
Yeah.
Let's start connecting at a more communal level, which I almost wanted to say we lost it, but I don't really know if we ever had it. Maybe it was just this fantasy of the old times that was spun up for us. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's something that I know personally. I like when I couldn't be around a lot of the people that I really thought were, well, I guess they were in my circle. I saw them every day, at work and stuff like that. And when that all stopped, I was kind of taking a look at certain relationships and being like, who would really care, if I don't hit them today? Like if I don't hit them first, if I don't hit so-and-so, are they ever? And I actually came to find out that a lot of those relationships were not what I thought they were. So I
think that's an Aesop Rock line.
Yeah.
If I died alone in my apartment, would the neighbors smell the place before the cat ate my face?
Oh yeah. I think, is that A$AP Rocky or is that A$AP?
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It was. Yeah. It was. That and that I think, for me personally, was tough during this time. And I've been writing a lot of music, so like I feel like that's come out in a little bit of it. But yeah, it's a weird time. And when you take a step back and you realize how little connection that even, yourself personally has, I think that is kind of troublesome. So,
And we as men especially, we're horrible with this where we will, what do? We will basically, when we're going through bad times, we will further shrink away from the world. Even the people that are there for us. We go into this Rambo mentality of we're going to lone wolf it and do it ourselves. Which if you think about it, that is the perfect thing for you to do for your enemies. Your enemies want you separated.
Yeah.
They don't want you in community. They want you alone and on your own. So you'll see that very often. Like I would have male friends where they would just show up after a couple months and it'd be like, "Where have you been, man?" It's like, "I was going through some things, but I made it." I'm like, that's not how friendship works.
Yeah.
Where you disappeared because you were going through a thing, but because you made it, now you're here. What if you didn't make it?
Yeah.
So there's a strong need for, again, because most of I don't remember many wars started by women. So a lot of the belligerence that we have going on right now, it's usually guys yelling in the faces of guys. That's usually what you're seeing right now. People don't put that anger inside you. You had that when you woke up this morning.
Yeah.
Coming back to the guy who gets no respect at work. So as soon as he gets off of work, he's going to drive to a BLM protest and yell at some little girls and some college kids with his Trump hat on. There's something inside you, brother, that made you do that. Has nothing to do with these kids. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting. So I don't want to, if you don't want to get too into it, I don't want to push you, but with your PTSD, when did you get diagnosed? When did you realize?
So the diagnosing kind of happened over time in a retroactive way. So I came back home. It's funny now. So I came back home.
Say, that's not that funny of a topic.
So I came home in 2010 and, let's see. So I first get back home. I'm driving my white Acura RL down a street in Kenosha, and I notice that this car is following me. And when I turn, it turns. I turn, it turns. I stop in the middle of the street, and I get out, and I start walking towards the car. The driver gets out. He's talking, but I can't hear him. I'm just on go mode. Keep in mind, I just came back home. He's in go mode. It takes me like 3 minutes to realize it's a cop and a police car, a marked car. But I still can't stop. So he's like talking, and all I'm looking at is him and his weapon, and I'm counting the steps. That's all I can think of. Now, luckily for me, this police officer was also an Army vet, and he could see what I was doing. So he took his hand off of his weapon.
Yeah.
And I got my hearing back. Yeah. Like when you're in that little tunnel vision, your body actually puts all your blood to your main senses. I couldn't hear nothing. So that was an incident. Then I was trying to make a schedule at Great Lakes Naval Station for, I don't know, getting my ID card or something like that. And I kept getting put on hold and hung up on. So I called after being hung up on a couple times, and I said, this is, I don't know, I said something like, this is Captain Raymond Roberts. I said my unit. I'm like, yeah, you guys keep hanging up on me, so clearly don't know who I am. I'll be there in 40 minutes.
Jesus.
Hung up.
That's intense.
Drive out there, and when I get there, they like have all the security guys just waiting for me. And I got out of the car.
Rightfully so.
And I got out of the car, and I was like, finally, you're showing me my proper respect.
Yeah.
I was like, you brought the right number of guys.
Yeah.
So, long story short, they were like, again, very professional. They're like, sir, just calm down. It's fine, everything. And I'm like, no, we're past calming down. So I have my little moment. I leave. So that was like 2012. So then coming back home, you're trying to adjust. And for me, everyone's got their way. Mine was alcohol. Like amounts that no one would believe if they weren't there. I would probably spend 12 hours a day at the bar just doing whiskey, just straight whiskey and scotch.
Really?
Again, it's funny now, but like when I didn't show up at the bar the bartenders would call me like, "Hey, you all right, man?"
Yeah.
Because I had my money coming in, so let's just say they did very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, but you try to you want a better life. I was dating my now wife at the time. You kind of want something different, and you start realizing that maybe the way you're living isn't how normally life should be.
Mm-hmm.
So, my average day, I started drinking, probably like 9 in the morning, and
Jesus
going
Christ.
all day. I mean, whiskey, but I was still working. So I was
Holy shit.
I think they call it a high functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
So,
What were you doing for work at the time? Or if you can't say it.
running bars, doing math. So
Okay.
I could still count when I'm drunk.
Yeah,
So,
Some people can't.
again,
So let's do high. They're very high functioning.
well, so I was high functioning. I was still good with thinking and stuff like that. So, but I just stayed at this constant state of non-sobriety to the point. So the day I got my DUI, I gave a presentation at Carthage on day trading. So I'm drunk early in the morning. I haven't eaten anything. I show up, I walk into Carthage drunk. I open up my laptop and I put it on the screen live. And I show my live account. And I'm talking day trading and making live trades. I'm like, yeah, and this is how you make money. I'm like, there, $5,000. We did it. So I'm like a rock star. I go out. I show up late to a wine event. It was supposed to be a wine and a dinner. And they said, hey, sorry, Ray, you're late. There's no food.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, but we can give you a whole bunch of wine. I'm like, yeah, I'll eat the wine. So I go to the wine. Then I finish. After all that, I go to Sazzy. And I doing my life there.
Where is Sazzy in Kenosha?
Yeah, it's a place in Kenosha.
Gotcha.
So I shouldn't have named it. It's not their fault. So then that was bad.
Yeah.
So I go to another place, and that was my whole day. So I'm driving, and I had a truck at the time. And, you're sitting there with your phone. So I'm driving while texting or whatever. And I drop my phone on the far side. Now with the truck, it's big. So
Yeah.
I reach over,
Oh man.
and I cut the wheel, and I cut back up, and I pop the curb in front of 4 parked police cars.
Jesus.
So that's how I got it. And I still didn't think there was a problem. I was like, this is just bad luck. So they do the test, the blood test actually. And I felt fine because that was my normal day, normal day. But I was still like 2.5 times the limit. And that's when I didn't know how bad it was. I never did a breathalyzer for fun before.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, man, my normal day, I'm walking around 2.5 times the limit on average. And I was like, maybe I should want to live a different way. Started going to, finally, still took years later, but finally went to the VA, checked in. It's like, hey, I want to see if I can live a different way, because I got to the point where I couldn't function without alcohol. Like, for me to look normal like everyone else, I had to have it. So once they started doing their measurements or whatever, they even said it. They're like, yeah, you can't stop drinking. Whatever you do, don't stop drinking. We're going to have to wean you off of it. So, that was the beginning of it. But coming back to how did I get diagnosed, that previous time when I went in and made that scene, part of it was because they said there was nothing wrong with me. And I was like, okay, fine. I didn't want to come here anyway. So I went to the VA probably 2 years ago in Milwaukee. And they're like, have you ever tried to get benefits before? And I'm like, yeah, but they said there's nothing wrong. So I'm just really here to see if you can give me some. So they won't give you benefits sometimes, but they'll give you pills. So I was like, okay, I didn't want pills, but something's better than nothing. And I guess they recorded that incident. So they're like, have you ever thought about getting your rating for PTSD? I'm like, well, I don't have any proof. They're like, oh, no. They recorded that incident at Great Lakes. You qualify.
Yeah. Wow.
I was like, so they don't go retroactive or anything, but they use that and some other stuff. And so from there, I was just kind of like, I knew I was ashamed to go into it, even though I needed it. And I knew there was other guys probably who were looking at me and saying, Ray went through what I went through. He didn't have any issues. Look at him. Mm-hmm. So I decided to make it a point to be very public about, hey, if you need help, brother, get your help,
Yeah. And so what were some things then, once you started getting help? I mean, if you can get into that, like what were some things that you had to do or you started doing and they kind of changed it?
Like I said, for me, alcohol was it was just to keep me normal. Like honestly, there was a time where like how I'm here right now, I needed 3 bottles of wine to be like this.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's scary, man.
so for me, it was kind of like weaning off it, finding other ways to approach and move, de-stressing. So coming back to it, first off, stop working 7 days a week. Stop doing that to yourself.
Yeah.
It's okay that you want to fix the world and do everything, but do it in an efficient manner and do it in a way that takes care of you.
Mm-hmm.
Also, be more scrutinizing of the people that you're around.
Yeah.
Not everybody that is willing to party with you cares about you.
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
So how are some ways that you would personally like be able to look at people and tell those things?
I don't know if I can look at them. I'm not that good.
Yeah, not maybe,
I
but
would say
assess these relationships.
so. I would say if people are only around you when you're buying, they're probably not your people. If people are only around you when you guys have to be drinking, if I was never one of these people, but if you find yourself around people that talk about, oh, I drank so much I threw up,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a cool thing,
Yeah.
because, alcohol, even the manufacturers, they don't want you throwing it back up.
Yeah.
It's supposed to stay down.
Mm-hmm.
So, I remember this saying, like, if your friends walk into the club and it's like, we're here to get slapped, just pour everything in there,
Oh God.
probably not the proper way to go. Yeah, maybe cool stories if you survive it, but depending on where you're trying to go, it's probably not going to take you where you want to go. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Realizing that it's probably not going to take you where you want to go. It's a lot of money too, honestly, man.
Yeah, that's what I've had people in and out of my life with maybe not drinking because I'm only 21 right now, so not drinking, but weed and things like that, and just like the amount of money that they're spending. And like, I mean, there's a different argument for marijuana and like what that does to people. I know I have some people that are very pro marijuana, and like I don't care I think it should be legal actually, but we don't have to get into that. But
I do too.
the people that just like almost to the point where like they were reliant on it, where like they had to do it before, after, like anything that we were doing, like and I just like I know them personally because none of us were in a great financial position,
Right.
and just like knowing the added stress that then to keep up doing this several times a day or a week or whatever it was, and it was just like
I'm always amazed, like when I talk to younger people and how cheap like life insurance is. Like you're under 22, 23, you can get a whole life insurance policy for like $40-$50 a month, meaning it has a cash value because you're so young. Oh my God, I don't got that kind of money. Like you smoke that. You smoke that every week.
yeah.
You literally set that money on fire.
Or people with or jewel pods or even like buying video games and stuff like that.
So it really comes down to, what are your values? What do you care about? But no, that's always crazy to me. Like, oh man, I can't afford $20 a month for insurance. That's too much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, don't you smoke $20 every day?
Yeah, or close to it at least. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think too, when looking at people that aren't maybe positive influences when they're around you are probably, I guess, kind of leaning into what you said, people that just they're cool when everything is up.
Right.
When you're winning, they're there. But who's there when you're losing?
And so I came home, like I said, I had a little bit of money, had the bars. So I had tons of friends, tons of girls. But when the money ran low, you're sitting there by yourself. And unfortunately, it took me way too long to notice that pattern.
Yeah.
So I finally got to a point where it's like, this is dumb on my part.
Yeah.
If you have to, because you might not think of it that way.
But you're paying for friends.
Paying people. Yeah, you're paying for friends. It's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
So just shut it down.
No, that's what and I've talked about it before on the show a couple of times, but I was like the first person in my friend group to get their license, like in my of my age. And I remember when I got my license, I was everybody's friend.
Oh yeah, you're super popular.
Everybody needed a ride. Everybody wanted to go to B-dubs or go do whatever. And then The second my next friend got his license, it was like, oh, those calls stopped coming. Those didn't get random FaceTimes at 2 a.m. to go, oh, yo, you want to go hit Macdon's, whatever. No.
And it's at least okay because you guys are younger, but
Yeah.
I'm seeing grown men. Where
Oh,
it's
you know,
like,
yeah.
Oh man,
Still.
oh she likes me. No, she doesn't. You own the bar. You literally poured your own bar down her throat. That's what happened.
Yeah.
You are not cute. She does not like you. She just can't afford her own drinks.
Yeah.
And like, you kind of, I'm married now, but you kind of have to say that to yourself, because the world will mess with you, man.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I remember being single and having that conversation with myself, like talking to myself saying, you don't look like Denzel. I know she just said it, but she's drunk and she wants another drink. You don't look like Denzel. She's full of it.
Yeah.
Like there's, or like I remember, when I was in my 20s, so I'm making the money I'm making in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 7 Series BMW.
Okay.
And I'm driving down the street, picking up girls walking to the bus stop. And I act surprised later when it doesn't work out that well.
Yeah.
It's like you literally asked for this trouble.
Yeah.
You pulled over and said, hey, where are you going? You saw her walking to a bus stop. You knew she wasn't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a lot of it is, do you think past tomorrow? Do you think past Friday? And I know we're kind of talking about money, but it's really not about money. It's about how long can you think? Mm. So there was a period of my life where my situation, I thought week to week. That's just where I was mentally.
Yeah.
Then I got to a point month to month. Then every 3 months, every 6 months. How do your plans go when you talk about your life? And working towards that to have more stability. And maybe that's another way to say it, valuing stability. Because when I was younger, stability, that sounds boring and horrible. I don't want to die.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful that I got to a point where, you know what? If stability means a chick not burning my clothes, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a little healthier for me.
Yeah, like after a while, I was like, you know what? I have stocked an entire kitchen 3 times because I live the unstable life. You have stuff, then you don't have stuff. You're like, hey, we should live together. And then you're like, I have to get out of here.
Yeah.
You just leave everything behind.
Mm-hmm.
You like just throw a smoke grenade and jump through the window and everything.
Batman out the window. Yeah. That's rough.
So yeah, so kind of answering your question is, start surrounding yourself with people who think on the timeline that you do. So if your timeline right now is, I plan my life a month at a time, where you're not like going paycheck to paycheck. You're like, okay, saving up this month to go buy this, or I'm saving up this month to invest in this. You start thinking that way. Surround yourself around people who talk the same way, or more preferably, surround yourself around people who talk longer than you.
Mm.
So that's one way of growing.
Yeah.
Because I was really much into the bar scene and everything, and I started looking at the guys 20 and 30 years older than me, and I was like, do I want to be him in 30 years?
Yeah.
And usually the answer was hell to the no. So it was like, if I don't want to be him, maybe I shouldn't do what he did to get here.
Yeah.
Figure out a different path.
Yeah. That's an important conversation to have with yourself, I think, because it gets scary when you start seeing yourself,
future, your possible
and other
future,
and other people that you're not so fond of.
I thought I wanted to be a musician at one point.
Yeah,
and I remember bragging about how I had my cars and my guitars, and that's all I needed. And I remember saying that at a bar that I just finished playing at in Jacksonville. I'm like, man, I got my cars and my guitars. That's all I need. And I see this guy who's like 60 at the bar. He's like, amen, brother. That's how I lived my life. Cars and guitars. That's all you need. And I never said that again.
Oh, God.
I never.
That'll do it, yeah.
Once he said
Soiled
that, I was
it.
like, I changed my mind.
Yeah. I'm done playing guitar. I'm done.
And I never played guitar. No, I play
Yeah.
guitar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely rethought that logic after seeing my future.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like,
that's
let's
interesting.
do a course correction here.
And do you still like dabble in music then at all?
Oh yeah, I've got my little studio at home. I sold out years back, so I don't play out ever. I don't remember the last time I played out, but no, I still play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, music's good for the soul.
Yeah. What do you know? What instruments do you play?
My main instruments are piano, guitar, bass. Those are my main ones.
God, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm just learning guitar now. Like I had no like
Okay.
little bit of music production size, but I'm mostly like mixing vocals and whatnot is where I'm better
Okay.
at, and
All right.
writing songs. Like I know how to write songs
So I
decently well.
grew up classically trained. So I started upright bass, then jazz bass, and then um,
You learned it the right way. I'm learning it backwards.
well, I say, depending on where you want to go with it, whatever works for you,
Mm-hmm.
So you're learning guitars. You have an instrument before that?
I messed around. Like they let us play, or it was kind of like everybody did it in grade school, where they played like violin for a year, and then it was like you got to get into band once you were in
Okay.
6th grade, and you got to choose. And I switched instruments like 3 times because there was a girl I had a crush on, and I was like, and she kept switching instruments. So I didn't really care. It wasn't
That's
really.
why I
into
went
it.
into classical music.
Yeah.
There's older chick. So I'm like 6th grade. So she was an older woman, like 8th grade or something.
Oh wow.
And I only went there because of her. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she ended up not working out, but it's whatever. But I would say
You got a life skill out of it. That works.
as long as you don't become that guy who pulls out the guitar at the parties,
Mm-hmm.
starts playing Wonderwall and all
Oh,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Just don't be that guy. You'll
Oh
be
no,
great.
yeah. No, I want to be able to, especially, I spend a lot of money on like outsourcing instrumentals and whatnot. So I've been learning the
Oh.
production side of things, and I want to be able to play. Just like we did a show, I did my first show was earlier, or was late last year. It was in December, and I want to be able to. I have a lot of songs where we use a lot of guitar. And I would love to just, have that moment where you can break it out and play a little acoustic and be able to play the music. Like I wrote the song, like I made it, I
Right,
gave it
right.
like this
So
life.
you
I'd
started
love to
as
be
a
able.
songwriter then.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's
Yeah.
actually kind of how I got into it. So I had the classical training, but only for bass.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I couldn't play guitar, so I'd be trying to sit there with the guitar saying, kind of like,
Mhm. Yeah.
And then they'd be like, bassists are guys who can't play guitar. So one day a guy said that hurt my feelings. Like, I'm going to learn guitar. So I learned guitar.
Shamed you into it.
But so now I can play the guitar I want and play the bass I want. But then
Yeah.
there's the drummer, where I'm like, I kind of want and
Yeah,
you're like
yeah.
sitting there having Tourette's.
Yeah.
Screw this, man. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna learn how to play drums well
Mhm.
enough to show that. So that's how I started bouncing the instruments, because I was like, okay, I want you to do this. I want you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And you to do this.
Yeah.
And then it helps with your singing and your songwriting. And it really helps with your songwriting because there's things that sound good in your head.
Yeah.
Then when you put it together and you're like, yeah, that's not working the way I thought it was.
No, yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
That's kind of just trying to get, because I've always like been fascinated by people that can. My dad grew up and he could play guitar really well, and he's like self-taught and stuff. So I was always really fascinated by it, but I was like, nah, I don't want to learn that. He would always be like, come on, I'll teach you how to play. Nah, I don't want to do that. And it was just kind of like I don't know why. He was big into fishing too, and I enjoy fishing, but I don't know if it was like I didn't want to get into it for whatever reason. Just like he would be like, yo, let's do this, and I'd be like, no, don't want to.
I moved a lot as a kid. I found music was a quick way to fit in, or at least be left alone.
That's I could see that.
So, nobody wants to mess with the musician.
Mhm.
You only have one.
Yeah.
Even in the Army, it was like, they'd be like, oh, you weren't allowed to bring a lot of personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go to deployments with 2 guitars.
Wow.
So they'd be like, I don't know what's in that bag, but you can't take it. I'm like, it's the guitarist. And they're like, we'll make it work.
That works.
We'll make
That's
it work.
sweet.
Everybody needs music, man.
Yeah, I think that I agree with that 100%. So have you like recorded anything ever? Like,
Oh yeah,
because you've got some nice.
If
I've
you,
seen you got a
if
nice
you,
microphone.
if someone did a Google, they could find some things. Some things I'm proud of, others things I'm not. So I think when I was at the Coast Guard Academy, we made a CD. I know we did. We made a CD.
Okay.
So that is still floating around out there somewhere on CD Baby, I think. Might still be around.
CD Baby's still a thing. They're
You can
distributed.
find a song somewhere, but it's been gone so long that someone has basically stole our music.
Yeah.
And they're selling it and making the money.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I remember one of my bandmates, like 15 years later, he's like, Ray, someone's selling our stuff and making money. And I look at the site, I'm like, he's sold like 17 copies. Like, do you really want to go to war for this guy?
Yeah.
I mean, just let him do it.
Yeah. At that point.
But yeah, then when I was here, still played a lot, because you own bars and restaurants. So you own the place, so people got to listen to you play.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So-
you built the stage. Why not get up there?
Yeah. if they kick you out, you just take your scarf and your mic and walk out.
Mm-hmm. What kind of music were you doing?
So I'm mainly like a blues, so acoustic guitar, so mainly blues mashed up with like grunge era rock.
Mm-hmm.
So the most of the stuff that I was doing, it was really that era that I grew up in, of taking blues and rock and mixing it all up. So I mean, I used to be able to play the entire CDs of like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Seven Dust, all that stuff.
And so did you do like mainly covers then, like primarily like other people's stuff, or did you do originals as well?
No, a lot of originals, but the originals fit that genre,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
So that was mainly where I was sitting in with stuff.
And you wanted to do it for a time, like that was like.
Oh,
like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, it was like, you know what? Forget the military. I'm just going to play music. It was fun for a little while, but again, you have to make some hard choices.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fast life.
Yeah.
We actually got signed by some little no-name label. And,
Really?
Oh, yeah. But that's not a big, impressive thing.
Yeah.
But they moved us down to Jacksonville, Florida. That's how I ended up in Jacksonville, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was kind of like training camp to learn how to be a rocker.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of got to hang out with, you probably never heard of any of these bands.
Not a lot of them, no.
Okay, Yellow Card.
Okay, no.
Okay, Cold.
Nope.
Okay,
not ringing
so-
any bell. Yeah, I
yeah.
was just.
So
saying,
yeah,
probably
we have a
not.
little bit of a generation
Yeah,
gap here.
a little
But
bit.
how about Shinedown? Ever heard of Shinedown?
Yeah. Actually,
Okay,
enjoy a lot of Shinedown.
So this is before Shinedown got big.
Okay.
So, so just kind of watching them do their thing on stage and going to the after parties, because you guys are like the runt band or whatever, or one of the runt bands.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing how they live life. And so the band, was that Cold? I think it might have been Cold. You're talking to the bases. These guys have just sold 1 million records, okay? They're platinum.
Yeah.
And you go up to them at the pool, you're like, hey, bro, man, it's so cool. You guys went platinum. What are you going to do now?
Mm.
And he looks at me and he goes, I just want to pay off my Tahoe. And that's when you start learning the ugly side of the business, to where, like, these guys just sold 1 million records, and he just wants to pay off his truck.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, and,
Yeah.
and they come and they tell you to change your name, and it's like, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of that. I know, especially with like shady record labels and whatnot. I mean, the whole music industry is a lot of artists are basically. I think it was Prince even had it. Did he get it tattooed, or did he just have it on the slave?
I think he just wrote.
Yeah,
slave,
yeah, and it was. Yeah, I mean, like you
and they're
got
businesses, so you can kind of understand it, but it's they will run you for sure. Like, so we thought we were ballers because they had this place for us down there on the beach on the water, but then again, you started like, we don't own any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And who are these people here? you know?
Yeah.
So you start wondering, like, if they kick us out tomorrow, we literally just have our clothes.
Yeah.
So
and they own your music.
They own your music. So that's the first thing I tried to do. I set up my own publishing company.
That's what. Yeah.
And I started putting my music underneath my own publishing company. And that was the beginning of the end. They're like, we don't need you guys doing any thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's I've started. Luckily I don't have any interest from labels or anything, and not very big. But yeah, I made sure to go like my own route and stuff. I take a lot of. I don't know if you know who Russ is, but he's all independent musician who he uses like TuneCore, and he makes ridiculous money all independent. He dropped like a song a week for 2 years, then got signed to Columbia and like worked his deal, so it was like just a distribution deal for 3 records, and now he's basically just used them to grow his platform ridiculously, and now he's back independent. And Drake's contract is
consistency,
up.
man. Just kind of how you're doing this. You can make good money if you're just consistent.
Yeah,
You know,
'cause a lot of people say they want to do shit and they don't.
Right. Most guys are not unreliable. I mean, like I said, so even though I was all about alcohol, I never did drugs.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody else around me did.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how a lot of guys got knocked out of the box and then not showing up. And guys will also get homesick, to be honest with you. Like, they'd be like, oh, my dream was to be on the road. And then it's like day 3, they're like, I want to go home.
Yeah, I miss my mom. Gotcha.
You know, my girlfriend says I need to go back. I'm like, seriously, bro? Seriously? Yeah. So, you can chase a thing and not know that's what you really are wanting or where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. I was curious what you would think. I don't know if you've heard any of this, but I'm big into like the hip hop community and stuff. And Drake's label is, I think his contract is up at the end of this year. And so there's been a lot of talk that if he goes independent at the end of this year, that it will, people are saying that it will cripple the record industry.
It
and
will cripple the record industry if Drake goes
because
independent?
of the ripple effect that it would have because if someone like Drake goes independent, he's already gotten everything that he needs to get from that. Like, he's the biggest artist in the world. He drops something tomorrow, it's gonna, millions of streams. He makes his money back easy. And if he was doing what I'm doing, where he's paying a set fee to release however many music or however many songs he wants to everywhere, distribute it, he keeps 100% of the royalties instead of having to pay. I think, don't know who he's signed to, Universal or whatever. He's gonna be making a lot more money.
Yeah. So I would say, I would ask the question, what is he paying Universal for? It might be possible that he's paying them for other things.
Well, they're paying him.
Well, what?
Yeah.
Well, no. Technically, he's paying them.
With his art?
With his art and his work.
Gotcha.
He's basically saying, I'm going to run through your house and you get a piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what's happening.
Yeah.
To your point, he could go independent. So, to put it this way, they can't fire Drake and keep making Drake music, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they can't get rid of him but keep turning out Drake
Yeah.
hits.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's him through them. But I would wonder, are there other things that maybe me and you don't see that they're doing for him?
Oh, I'm sure they are. I mean, but that's where it was Steve Stout, I think, was just on the Breakfast Club again, and he was speaking with Russ a couple weeks before that, and that's when it came up, was that Russ, because he's all independent, that's his big thing, is like, I own all my masters and blah, 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 and he like talks his shit, like, as we do in hip hop and whatever. And just saying that imagine if Drake did go independent, and what that would say to all the other top artists, that if you already are at whatever level, you don't need to re-sign with the label at this point. Like, you'll make your money just off streaming. And then
let's talk it through. So let's say all the top artists all go independent, they all leave. What are the record labels going to do? Build new artists.
Yeah, but a lot of record labels really don't know what's going on anymore. Like, when it comes to like,
and they will die out the way they died out back in the day. But the survivors will put something up there. I mean, let's just keep it real. The more popular rap is not really getting that sophisticated. Neither is the pop. So you look at what they do. They throw up 20 Ariana Grande or whatever.
Yeah.
One of them sticks. That's the business model.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah.
So doesn't mean they're going to be around forever, but they've proven themselves pretty eager to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about the music. They make individuals and they make them businesses. They make them platforms.
Yeah.
To where, you do some music, you sell some steaks, you got a cologne. They're all over the place. You're going to do a couple TV shows.
Yeah.
So.
No, they definitely have, all the connections and everything else. And it's a lot easier, I would say, as an artist once you get to a point where you can get, a look from a major label or something like that. And
maybe that's what I'm trying to say. I'm wondering if being with a major label gets you certain accesses that they control or maybe have large amount of influence.
I think you're right in that sense, and I think that they won't necessarily go away, in the sense that I think a lot of artists are lazy and a lot of artists need that person doing all of that for them, and that they don't want to do the research and get their own booking agent or their own.
Even if they're not lazy, that seems like a crap.
It's a lot
of
of shit. Yeah, no, definitely.
Mean, just imagine some guys like, I don't want to share the money. I'm gonna put together my own world tour. Really, bro?
Yeah.
That's your okay.
Yeah, I mean that's that. I guess that's where I just like, I'm big on ownership and stuff like that, just because I don't know. I guess my parents owned a business, and I look up to, like, I was never huge into Jay-Z's music, but I just love his mindset of basically owning it all, and now where he is. And the same thing with someone like Russ. I love that he owns his entire catalog, basically played the system to where now he does do a worldwide tour.
And I think I saw some event, like some 3-part miniseries of some rap group where they did everything. They were self-promoted, indie.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a lot of work. Like,
definitely.
They go on stage, and when they get off stage, they don't get to go to sleep. They're sitting there crunching the numbers, paying all their people, setting it up. tweeting for the next city and everything, building up, you know,
the hype. Yeah.
you know, building up the hype. It was like crazy work.
Yeah.
Now there was like, but at least we don't work for anyone else. But I'm kind of like, well, you work for you.
Yeah.
And you seem like a horrible boss to you.
Yeah.
Like,
that makes sense.
like that's just normal business. You'll find that people, they will be the worst boss they've ever had to themselves. Like you will allow yourself to do things to you would never let another boss do. You'll work yourself 90 hours and not make money. You'll do that to yourself.
No, I will. I have. Yeah.
But you would never allow another human being to make you work 90 hours and not cut you a check. So coming back to that mental health and self-care, you entrepreneurs especially, because entrepreneurs are normally high competency people and they normally have fewer teammates.
Yeah.
It's easier for them to delude themselves into thinking that if they don't do it, the world stops.
Yeah.
So you have to decide, what things are we going to outsource? What maybe it is worthwhile having someone else put together the world tour so I can sleep between gigs.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. There's just
or
maybe.
You could just say sleep when I'm dead and see how that works.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I mean, for me personally, I would definitely love to have someone set that kind of thing up. But I don't know that I don't think I would ever want to sign to. I mean, I guess too, it's different if someone were to come to my house right now and be like, hey, here's $1 million. You know, your family's good. Like, come record an album for us. Like, if Universal was out, I'd be like, shit.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'd probably be like, does it
do
come with a shirt that says sell out?
Yeah.
I need that too.
Be like, shit, I don't know, $1 million right now? Okay, maybe. Especially when I never got my first stimulus check, so I'm stressing a little bit. But yeah, no, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I wanted to see what you thought about the whole record label and stuff. And I know you'd gotten into music before, so.
Yeah, but I don't like Drake, so.
Not into Drake at all?
I liked him when he first came out.
Okay, but you like a Drake song.
Teeny bop or pop.
That's understandable. I love Drake. I like his like B-side records more though. Like,
but it's probably because I'm getting old now, so I think I'm getting to that age where like, oh, there used to be good music back when I was a kid. You know, I'm trying not to be that way, but yeah, I'm like listening to trap rap. I'm like, what is this?
No, I can't. I just can't stand when people will be like, "Oh, Drake is like the kids that booed Drake off stage when Tyler the Creator. I don't know if you know who that is, but he has his own like Camp Flog Gnog festival where it's like his label and stuff, and he booked Drake as a surprise guest. And these kids they're like those like edgy, like we like what other people don't like, even though Frank Ocean is huge, and so they thought it was gonna be Frank Ocean was gonna be the surprise guest, and I love Frank Ocean, but the biggest artist in the world is who you got instead, and these kids booed him off stage, like the only time he's ever been that we would know of that he's been booed off stage. Like I can't stand those people that are like, I don't fuck with anything Drake's ever made. It's like, dude, if Best I Ever Had comes on or Headlines comes on and you're not singing that, then okay, you don't like music then. I don't care if you don't like the way he went afterwards. That's fine. That's a different conversation. But if you don't like that, then you don't like hip hop. That's stupid.
Yeah, I like some of his more obscure stuff off his earlier records. Like Put the Lights On. That's a good song. Has Jay-Z guesting on it. You know.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
When did he veer off for you then?
When I stopped knowing what we were talking about, like when we started getting all weird and talking about how, ooh, girl, you got like your passport stamps, and like, what girls are you talking about, bro?
That's fair criticism.
And so I'm sitting there, like the last times I was in a club or at night, and I'm watching everybody like dancing this, and like, none of you have passports.
Yeah,
none of you have passports.
Yeah.
But you're sitting there like, yeah, that's me. Like, no, it's not. None of you have passports.
That's something that for me personally, and that's why I think I gravitate. Like Drake's someone I just respect that he'll have a hit record every other record is a hit.
The hustle.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't listen to Justin Bieber, but I respect the fact that he has millions of fans. So
doing something right.
I'm not going to sit there and yell at his limo, "You suck."
Yeah.
Clearly, you don't.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I know. But for me personally, like especially doing, I have always thought of hip hop as something like very real and like raw, and so like that's what I know. Some other artists that I've kind of like declined working with because it's just like corny shit where it's like they're talking like they are Drake,
right?
And it's like, bro, like you live in your mom's basement
Well,
too,
we
bro.
go through
Like,
that. Like I said, when I was younger, I was listening to everything, not knowing what I was even saying, but repeating the lyrics, But, I started, like, I'm more common to Lib Kweli. That's most deaf.
yeah,
Where we're actually talking about life, that at least a life I understand.
yeah,
Yes, of course, there's a nightclub somewhere where all the girls have stamps in their passports. That's not Kenosha, though.
yeah.
And that's what was happening. Like, I'm sitting here in Kenosha, and everyone's, like, talking about, Lambo suicide doors.
Yeah.
You have never touched a Lambo.
Never even seen one in
You've
real
never
life.
seen one.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
could take you to the horse in front of Walmart and tell you that's a Lambo, and you might believe me.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like,
No, B by Common. That's my shit right there. that I love some Common. Back when he was like first getting put on, I was big into his shit.
so yeah, that's all I'm saying. Like, where I think I prefer music that I can relate to in life,
Yeah.
Or maybe you make me stretch a little bit. You listen to Talib Kweli, you learn about Nigerian oil fields and stuff like that. You got to go look up names of freedom fighters and stuff like that. Stuff that I want to know and care about.
Mm-hmm.
But, and again, you can still just enjoy music. So
Yeah.
as crazy as he is, there's a lot of Kanye I just listen to for the music.
Yeah.
I preferably try to find the instrumental or something like that.
Yeah.
But
He's
I mean,
insane with his just
the
production.
guy, he knows what he's doing. He might not know what he's talking about. But
Yeah.
he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So you can just enjoy too.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Is there anything else that you have for me?
Man, I feel like we covered everything.
Yeah, we touched on a lot of topics, a lot of shit. So
Well, we connected. That's what this was all about. We connected.
Mhm.
So yeah, maybe that's what we can say this was. Like, if you only talk to people about a specific subject, you're not really connecting. You're not really getting to know each other. So I think that wouldn't be a bad thing if more people in the world started doing this. Just have a free flow conversation and see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. Where can the people find you? I'll let you plug it before we wrap things up here.
So Raymond K. Roberts, they can find me on Facebook, YouTube. On YouTube, I run under the moniker Solutionary Tech and Data. So, I try to bring it back to technology or data geek stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But also BLM, Black Lives Matter engagements and facilitations. So we, from police stations to churches to nonprofits, just in facilitating discussion on what does it mean, why don't they do this, and going through that line of questioning.
And what can we do better? Things.
What can we do better?
Yeah.
What should we be doing?
Yeah. I got you. Well, I want to thank you for coming out here and thank you for being on the show again. I always enjoy having you. Actually, before we wrap this up, we got an award for you.
Yeah, that's right.
It's signed. It was written by me, and it's kind of ugly handwriting, but it's signed whatever, and it's a
That's
chatty.
right, my award,
Our first ever award ceremony. That one was the longest word, so it's fucked up. All the rest of them were centered, and we were signing them the day of, and I wrote that so terribly. So my apologies. It's my bad woodwork too.
I think all the letters are there.
They are all there. It's just
Good for you.
Yeah, it's just really bad. Squished it in there at the end. But yeah, I appreciate you being on, and I'm really thankful that you came on the week that I ended up having you on, because I think it was a really important conversation that needed to be had, and I'm glad my audience got to have you, to get to see you and get to hear from you, because I thought with everything that was going on and that still is going on, I'm someone who I don't know everything, and I like to defer to people that can teach me things and can push me forward. As you were saying, people that talk longer than you maybe. And I think like you're someone who pushed me to think a little bit more critically and to kind of look at things and people in my life in a different way. So I'm really appreciative that you came on the show, and our audience voted for you as most informative. So they obviously loved it too. So
I like this better than geek.
Geek. Yeah, that would have been a little rough. I thought it was a great episode, honestly, and I had a lot of fun today too. So thank you for being on.
No, thanks for having me on.
And I want to say one last time, thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel. You guys, we had a lot of content coming out just on Patreon by the end of this month, so be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, this has been episode 57 of the Detox Podcast. I'll see you guys next